Talking to someone unemployed is such a waste of time.
She waved her hands with flashy nails, trying to shoo me away. This was one of the most upscale bars in New York. Every guest was dressed in expensive clothing, engaging in refined conversations. In such a setting, her shrill voice stood out sharply. I had been invited to this gathering by college friends, but it had suddenly been turned into a mixer with secretaries. Wearing a casual t-shirt and shorts, I drew unwanted attention for being out of place. The leader of the women, Monica, had already deemed me unworthy based solely on my appearance. She couldn't even bear to make eye contact with me, sitting as far away as possible and refusing to look in my direction. But I knew something she didn't. In just 1 week, she would have no choice but to face me head on. My name is Sean, and I'm 30 years old. I'm currently unemployed. 3 days ago, I got an invitation to a party from an old college friend. It was supposed to be a casual get-together with some of my close buddies from college. Our alma mater is one of the top-tier universities, and its alumni are a pretty impressive group. Back in college, we used to laugh about silly things, but now, my friends have become lawyers, executives at major corporations, and even an aide to a congressman. I, on the other hand, joined a big financial firm right after graduation, but ended up leaving after a few years because it just didn't suit me. Since then, I've been unemployed, and naturally, our schedules didn't match up, which led to a long period of us drifting apart. The fact that I spent some time in the UK also played a role in widening that gap. However, now that I'm back in the States, we're starting to reconnect again. I thought tonight's gathering would be a casual hangout with friends.
Sorry. The get-together tonight has been switched to a mixer with some gorgeous executive assistants.
Kevin, who had volunteered to organize the event, scratched his head apologetically as he broke the news. We had planned to meet at our old college haunt, a cheap and cozy bar. Because of that, I had shown up in the most comfortable outfit I could find. However, when I arrived at the station where we agreed to meet, everyone else was dressed casually but with a noticeable touch of style.
I said it was a casual get-together, but you really overdid the casual.
Kevin was half exasperated. I thought about going back to change, but he insisted that we needed all 5 of us for the mixer, so I reluctantly followed him. The place we ended up at was a high-end bar. I was nervous, worried I might not meet the dress code. Still, I managed to get inside without being stopped by the staff. But now, I could feel the judgmental stares from the other patrons. Why did it suddenly turn into a mixer? I grumbled to myself, and Kevin slung his arm around my shoulder and whispered to me,
It's finally the first time our schedules have lined up. If we miss today, who knows when the next chance will be. Besides, I really want a girlfriend.
With that, Kevin ordered a whiskey. To be fair, it's a little pathetic that 5 guys in their 30s are all still single.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
A high-pitched voice greeted us, sounding like it came from above. The women arrived, dressed flawlessly, with impeccable makeup to match. I had to admit, they looked every bit the part of professional assistants. The woman at the center of the group was particularly striking. Her dark red dress and bold accessories perfectly matched the dimly lit atmosphere of the bar. Her height and stylish outfit exuded confidence. But something about her sharp, scanning gaze unsettled me. The next moment, her eyes locked onto me, and she frowned. It was clear, she didn't like me. After that, We all sat around a large table with the men and women facing each other. Once everyone had ordered drinks, we introduced ourselves briefly. Every time one of my friends mentioned their profession, the women applauded. Yet, even as this happened, I could feel their glances shifting toward me. It was as if they were looking at a monkey among humans. That was the kind of vibe I got. Amid the uncomfortable atmosphere, my introduction was saved for last. My name is Sean, and I'm 30 years old. My profession is unemployed. The women gasped in shock, and a murmur spread through the group. The first to speak up was, unsurprisingly, the woman at the center.
What is an unemployed person doing here?
Well, I'm unemployed, but... I tried to explain, but she cut me off sharply.
No, that's fine. Let us introduce ourselves now.
She turned to the other four men with a radiant smile.
My name is Monica. I'm about to start working as an executive assistant for an international company.
Her tone was completely different, a sugary sweet voice, nothing like the one she used when talking to me. I couldn't help but be impressed by how effortlessly she switched her demeanor. When the food arrived, Monica graciously started serving the dishes. Of course, she didn't serve me. Kevin, trying to be polite, spoke up to her.
Monica, I think you missed one.
Without a hint of remorse, she looked down at me and said,
Really? Oh, you're still here. Isn't this just a waste of your time?
Even Kevin and the others began to look uncomfortable. But I just smiled at them. I never had any high hopes for this mixer anyway. As long as I can enjoy some good drinks, that's all I need. It'd be a shame to ruin their chances of finding a girlfriend because of me. With that thought, I sipped my drink alone while the spotlight naturally shifted to Monica.
I've worked as an assistant for many companies over the years. When I left, they always begged me to stay, but I chose to focus on advancing my career.
Monica continued sharing story after story, boasting about her exceptional skills. While everyone nodded along, they all seemed bored and gradually started enjoying side conversations instead. As I considered leaving early, a petite woman named Emily approached me.
Sean, what would you like to drink?
She had noticed that my glass was empty. Emily was the smallest among the women, dressed in a simple, understated style, and she seemed quiet, often taking the role of a listener in conversations. She must have been trying to be considerate, seeing me sitting alone. No, I was actually thinking about heading out. When I said that, she lowered her gaze.
I'm sorry about Monica.
For some reason, Emily apologized on her behalf. Apparently, they were classmates at a secretarial school. They regularly met up to exchange updates, but this time, Monica had abruptly decided to turn it into a mixer. I let out a dry laugh. Looks like we're in the same boat. Neither of us had planned for this mixer, and we were both starting to get bored of it. She seemed curious about what an unemployed person like me did all day and began asking questions.
What do you do every day?
I read financial newspapers, checked stock prices and investment news online. I guess I can't shake off the habits from when I was working at a company.
Does that mean you're knowledgeable about asset management?
She leaned in, clearly interested. Apparently, she had recently started taking an interest in investing. When I shared some tips and advice on investment strategies, she listened intently. She's a smart woman. Her thoughtful questions about my explanations impressed me. For the first time in a while, I had an enjoyable conversation about finance. and it turned into a genuinely fun time. However, it seemed Monica didn't like the friendly conversation Emily and I were having.
Emily, if you get too close to someone like him, people will think you're the same?
Criticized by Monica, Emily shrank back. Monica then glared at me and said,
If you want to make noise, why don't you go to a cheap bar? Honestly, how can you even show up here dressed like that? It's completely inappropriate.
it seemed she was getting drunk and bitter, likely because no one was listening to her bragging anymore. This works out perfectly. I was just about to leave. I put $100 on the table and stood up. Without a word, I glanced at Emily, and she nodded before getting up as well.
I'm leaving too.
Emily,
Monica looked even more annoyed, clearly surprised by Emily's decision.
a failure from our school and a misfit. What a perfect pair.
Ignoring her words, we walked out of the bar. Was that a bit too pushy of me? I apologized to her, but she shook her head.
Monica's been condescending ever since she graduated from secretarial school and got hired at a big corporation. She always looks down on me because I could only get a job at a family-owned business. But honestly, I've been thinking it's time to distance myself from her, so this was perfect timing.
She smiled as she said this. Feeling like our conversation wasn't over yet, I decided to ask her, "Want to grab a drink somewhere else?"
I was thinking the same thing.
We found a small bar and toasted to a fresh start.
Actually, I've been considering a career change.
Emily said that abruptly. Even though it's a family business, you're thinking of quitting.
I want to try something new. If you know of any good companies, please let me know.
Well, I'm unemployed, so I don't think I can help much with that, I said with a wry smile. Then she pointed at my t-shirt.
That's a luxury brand that hasn't entered the US market yet, right?
I was stunned and speechless. The shirt I was wearing was plain black, with only a small embroidered logo on the cuff hinting at its brand. How did you figure that out?
I often have to prepare gifts for my boss, so I make it a habit to keep an eye on popular items. And the British investor who's been in the spotlight lately mentioned that he's a fan of this brand, so I remembered it.
It seemed she had deduced from my attire that I wasn't just an ordinary unemployed man. She's smart and perceptive, in that case. I introduced her to a job opening. Her eyes lit up with excitement, and she beamed.
I'll definitely get the job.
We spent about another hour drinking and talking before parting ways. After walking her to the station, I checked my phone and found an apologetic message from Kevin. I called him back. Don't worry about it. Let's hang out again soon. And this time, it's on me. Thanks to you, I found an amazing talent. 2 weeks later, I was cleaning the floor while holding a mop on the top floor of a station building. This building had been completed just a few years ago and housed offices of some of America's most prestigious companies. As I polished the floor, the sound of high heels echoed from the elevator lobby.
Oh,
The tone was condescending. Standing there was Monica, the woman who had driven me out of the mixer. Dressed impeccably in a suit, she seemed even more determined than before.
are you working here as a janitor?
Assuming I was a cleaner, she sneered.
What a waste, coming from such a good university and ending up as a janitor. Your degree must be crying.
She laughed smugly and continued.
This building houses one of the world's leading investment funds. I'm here today to become their secretary.
Although she was just there for an interview, she seemed utterly confident she wouldn't fail. The investment fund Monica mentioned was founded by a renowned international investor named Oliver. Oliver is so influential that people say when he makes a move, the economy follows. However, he's known for being difficult and rarely trusting others. At one point, it became big news in the business world that the only disciple he ever took on was an American. That disciple was appointed as the head of the American branch and began recruiting for a secretary.
You should hurry up and find a job already.
And you haven't been hired yet either, I muttered quietly.
With my extensive experience as a secretary, I've already passed the document screening. It's practically a done deal.
Just then, the elevator made a soft ding. It seemed someone else had arrived on the floor. The person who stepped out of the elevator was Emily.
Emily,
Monica,
Both of them stared at each other in surprise. I leaned my mop against the wall and addressed the two of them. Now that all the applicants are here, shall we start the interviews?
what are you acting so high and mighty for?
Sean,
I guided the two stunned women and used a card key to open the office door. Please come in. It's still a bit messy since we haven't officially opened yet. I led them into the CEO's office. The office was sparsely furnished, with desks lined up and stacks of cardboard boxes everywhere. The only organized space was the CEO's office. Then I took off my work jacket. Underneath, I was wearing a dress shirt and tie, just in case. I invited them to sit on the sofa before taking a seat in the CEO's chair. Sorry for the surprise. I'm Sean, the branch CEO. Monica looked utterly incredulous.
You're the CEO of this branch. You've got to be kidding me.
On the other hand, Emily remained calm. She must have had an inkling about something. Meanwhile, Monica appeared completely flustered.
Wait a second, what's going on here?
I gave them a brief explanation of the situation. The financial company where I started as a rookie was dull. I wanted to do something more fulfilling, so I quit and began investing on my own. Using the knowledge I gained at the company, I trusted my instincts and predictions, and I quickly found investing to be my true calling. At first, I focused on short-term trading, and my profits grew steadily. But after reaching a certain level, I became bored again. So, I shifted everything to long-term investments and decided to broaden my understanding of the economy by trying to connect with Oliver, a prominent investor. I sent him countless text messages and shared my theories on investing online. I even forwarded those articles to Oliver. Maybe my persistence paid off, because after a year, I finally got a response from him.
Come to England.
At his invitation, I immediately went to England. I lived with Oliver for an extended period, learning everything from him. It wasn't just about investing. I learned everything from his lifestyle to his fashion sense. My casual style is actually inspired by Oliver. During that time, I wasn't an employee or an official apprentice, so I didn't receive a salary or anything similar. I lived entirely off the money I made through investments. When I said I was unemployed, that's what I meant. Monica looked at me with suspicion. But whether she believed me or not didn't matter. She was here for a job interview. I proceeded with the interview professionally. From self-promotion to reasons for changing jobs, motivations, and Q&A, the difference between the two candidates was striking. Even considering Monica's agitation, Emily's intelligence stood out. When can you start? I decided on the spot to hire Emily. However, Monica couldn't accept the result and began protesting.
How can someone who's only worked at a family business be hired over someone like me with experience at numerous top companies?
She started spouting such arguments. With a sigh, I pulled a confidential file from my desk drawer. Apologies, but for thoroughness, I conducted some background checks. Apparently, Monica caused numerous issues at her previous jobs and left most of them under circumstances akin to dismissal. In contrast, Emily not only worked as a secretary but also studied management and devoted herself to revitalizing her family's business. Moreover, the kind of person Oliver, the CEO, was looking for was someone who could break away from conventional ideas and flexibly carve their own path. Isn't it clear which of you our company needs? Monica stood up, her face flushed with anger.
I wouldn't want to work for a company like this anyway. There are plenty of better companies than some British subcontractor.
She threw those words over her shoulder and stormed out. I explained the necessary steps to Emily and saw her off to the elevator lobby.
To think Sean was the CEO.
It seemed even she hadn't imagined that much.
And your background checks are incredibly thorough.
I apologized once again for conducting the investigation without her permission.
In this world, information is everything.
This is one of Oliver's teachings.
People, money, and information all gravitate toward those who master them.
When I hesitated about conducting background checks, Oliver insisted and pushed forward with the investigations. In the end, it turned out to be the right decision. Resumes alone don't reveal anything about a person's true character. Soon after, Emily began working as my secretary. Her ability to understand what I needed with minimal explanation has been a tremendous help. Meanwhile, Monica, who stormed out of the interview, seems to be struggling to find new employment. After the UK branch opened, the workload became overwhelming. Exhausted, I took a short break, sipping coffee Emily had made for me. I wonder if Kevin might invite me to another mixer. I idly thought about such things. Even if a mixer is full of size, if I can meet someone as exceptional as Emily, I'll always be willing to attend.